welcome to Women's Wellth, the podcast with me, Joanne. My mission is to educate, inspire, and empower you all to step into your own life of wealth. That feeling of being so rich in your mind, body, and soul. I'm so happy to have you here. Let's get straight into it. People, welcome. It has been a hot minute since I recorded a solo podcast before I went away, and I really am happy to be back. I've been really excited to record this morning, to get home and just get back in here and set up and got my notes, got everything ready. So yes, welcome back to you as well. I have a few things I wanted to talk about to begin with. A few little changes, a few new things. First of all, we have a new member of the family. We have Dorothy. Let me see, she's actually just snoozing here on my leg. Let me just show. So if you're on YouTube, you get a little view of the puppy. Here she is. So this is Dorothy. She's George and Ted's new little sister. She's so floppy. Let me put her back so she can go back to sleep. She's making me really hot, actually. Her tummy is so hot. So Dorothy is our new rescue, and we had been looking for a third dog for a while. I say dog, we wanted a girl. So we were after a little, I guess she's a bitch. Oh. So we were after a little girl. And it, just timing and all of the things, and then we were like, shall we get a third, shall we not? Anyway, when we were in Bali, there was a post on the rescue site, and they were desperate, and they said no one was adopting because it was summer and her litter was ready to go. She's curled back up now. So I said to my partner, I said to Joseph, just fill the form in, tell them that we're travelling. If it's meant to be, when we get back, well, I came back after him. When I'm back, we can go and meet the puppies. So they got back to us. We passed the test. So okay, we explained. So then the puppies there. So when I got back, we drove down about an hour away, and because we'd said it needs to be Chihuahua, and I know it's. I know that when you're adopting, it's very different. So in Dubai, you have Chihuahuas. You can sort of specify, because there is that many dogs up for adoption. Always lots of puppies. Now I think, just to go off on a tangent, it's because a lot of people don't believe in neutering, and they have dogs, and they have these big houses with lots of dogs, and they have accidental litters. So there's always a chain of the small dogs, Chihuahuas, Maltipoos, Cavapoos, Chipoos, all of the ones mixed with poodles, all of the little dogs. So they do ask, and obviously we already have 2 Chihuahua boys that can be quite feisty, especially when we're out walking. So it needed to be a girl. So we went to look at a girl. The first girl was beautiful, but she was about the same size as Ted already. So we didn't think that George and Ted would enjoy her because she's too big. So the lady asked us, do you want to see the other litter? Now, we had already seen a photograph of Dot and her sisters. Didn't know, who was who, what was what. And I did comment, I was like, I hope people are not. So she had one up ear and one down ear. I hope people are not having her because her ears don't match. I was like, that one's so cute. Anyway, we walked in. Straight away, Joseph said, there's that one that you saw on the picture. So I was like, oh my god. So I went over, and she's obviously a little girl, and they were saying that she was really quiet, but I picked her up, scooped her up, she cuddled straight in, and the other ones were like, look at me. And I was kind of like, this is our baby. So we'd taken the boys with us. The boys went in to meet her. Everything was fine. And it's been 3 weeks. She's settled in really well. She's such a snuggle bum. The boys have a little bit of, they haven't, nothing major, just telling her where her place is, and that's it. Yeah, so she's really, really fitting in, and I do believe that your dogs find you, you don't find your dogs, and it was just the universe showing her to me on the picture. That was her way of like, I'm here, I'm waiting, you need to fill the form in. So yeah, we have fun, complete, that's it. That is it, unless we do buy a house somewhere and, next dream is Chihuahua Farm. That's on the vision board. So that's one piece of news. Second piece of news is, so this is kind of like two together. So we finally booked the wedding. It's going to be December 2025. And mished together with that sort of news is I am going to be making a new video each week. So Wellth Wednesday is staying. I'm just probably not going to call it Wellth Wednesday anymore. Each week there's going to be the health, well-being video, and then podcast staying. Third video, possibly a fourth. So I did introduce the rituals as well. So a little bit more yoga, a little bit more meditation, and another video of just day-to-day life. Now, I haven't got a title for that yet. I wrote something down here. What did I put? Oh, life as it happens. And I guess I was inspired just by watching other people's videos. And, people watch. And is it because we're nosy? Is it because we want to see how other people do things? And I was speaking to Joseph, and I asked him, and I was like, do you think this sounds like a good idea? And he did say there will be people out there that, are similar age to me, maybe have dreams and desires, and they might be scared. I left my teaching career of 11 years to go off on my own and do this. Not everyone has that vision, but if you're thinking of making a change, or there's something you want to do, and just seeing how I navigate through life, of course bringing my expertise into that, but just sharing a little bit more to help a little bit more, I guess. And I also think that I've been kind of eased into this through, of course I have an Instagram, but I find, and I don't know if you're the same, that lately I don't enjoy Instagram. Now, I love making content. I love doing my podcast, meeting my guests, recording, making my Wellth Wednesday videos. When I finally get around to doing yoga and meditation videos, I love, love, love doing that. I love making content for Instagram, but then I post it, I feel like I can't say as much as I want to, and then I come off. I spend most of my time watching podcasts on YouTube and documentaries on YouTube, so why am I not sharing more on the platform that I use? So that's the method behind my madness. So I'd love you to join me there. Keep your eyes peeled for that. And if you have any suggestions, any topics that you'd like me to cover, either in my podcast or anything you want to know, reach out to me. So you can email me, joannewellth@gmail.com. There's also, if you find my podcast, I think there's a button that says message me. I can't remember what I wrote, but you can find me there. And of course, reaching out to me on the socials as well. Any topic, I will keep bringing in. I'm still going to be here for health and wellness, but now a nice little mixture, sharing, this is what I do, this is how I do it, this is how I navigate, and if you're in this same position, we're in this together. So yeah, that's another few little announcements there before we actually get into the cost. It's only 8 minutes worth of announcements. So today's podcast, I've been on the fence about this podcast for a while, because first I was like, well, women's wealth, health, well-being, it doesn't really have anything to do with that. However, the more I have thought about it, I think it does. So today we're going to be talking about conspiracy theories. And sorry, I was just making sure that I'd had the website open there, if you saw me looking away from the camera. Now, I've always been interested and asked questions and possibly called a conspiracy theorist. Now, I'm going to use the term, but I don't like it. I think anyone who is called a conspiracy theorist into conspiracy theories is someone who's just asking the right questions. if anyone's ever called you that, or you feel that you're guilty of that, or you like listening to these theories, it's because something doesn't feel right for you. You feel like there's questions that need to be asked. This doesn't happen over every single event. You know, things happen in the world every single day, and we don't get the conspiracy theories jumping out, because if it's obvious, if it's, you know, if it's quite clear what has happened and we don't need to ask questions about it, then we don't. It's when we sit down and we look and we think, something doesn't feel right here, it probably isn't. And that's why they label conspiracy theorists. Now, I've done a lot of reading, and obviously I watch a lot of podcasts. I love Joe Rogan. He's one of my favourite. I listen to his band on YouTube for being a conspiracy theorist, but Alex Jones, Candace Owens. I love listening to their point of view. And these are people who are also Tucker Carlson, all called conspiracy theorists. You know, people try and cancel them all of the time because they're asking the right questions. So for me, it's really enlightening. And then I go off and do my own research. I'm not going to go too far into the big conspiracies today. What I've done, just to make it easier and a little bit more interesting, I've pulled up a website, 15 of the most popular conspiracy theories in recent history, and I'm going to go through them. But I do just want to share one that really interests me at the moment, and it's one that all of the podcasters that I've just mentioned have touched on. And this is, it kind of probably links to what I've just been saying about Instagram actually, that social media, but particularly TikTok, is a mind virus. And this mind virus is being spread by one of the superpowers of the world. I can say it, China. My podcast isn't big enough. I'm not going to get cancelled. So they're spreading this virus. And it's a mind virus. So they do this by showing, you know, they're in charge of the algorithm. They do not have TikTok in China, which for straight away it's like, what? Like, that's along the lines of Steve Jobs, who said he would never give his children iPads and iPhones because he knew what was coming. He knows that this is going to be an addiction. This is, you know, people do not look up from their phones. People are engaged. People are disengaged to the real world. So he knew this. So China knows they can pump certain information into the West and infiltrate that way. And one of the ways that they are really infiltrating is through what young people are seeing on their screens. And again, this is particularly in the US, but it does filter down. You know, the UK is not far behind the US in many things. That the demasculation of men. And this is a thing. And I've watched examples and the podcasters that I've seen, and they show examples of where this is actually happening. And 10, 20 years ago, it wasn't a thing, you know? There's men who, you know, swear that they wouldn't join the army, and why would they? And they're not these manly men that most of us have grown up with. They are completely the opposite. And it's really interesting to hear from these other podcasters of how, you know, if this pattern continues, that the West is not going to have men who are ready to fight for their country. So how easy is it going to be to then infiltrate in other ways? You know, and it's a big one, it's a big conspiracy. But the more you look into it, and the more, like, I do not go on TikTok. I have a TikTok. I think it's, you know, maybe got 2 or 3 posts on. I tried, but I just couldn't. I can't. And I'm getting that way with Instagram. That, you know, it just doesn't feel real anymore. You know, the use of AI and Photoshop, all of these things. I'm like, whoa, what is going on? So that is one theory that I was chatting about the other day when I was thinking about, do I talk about this on my podcast? Like, yeah. Now, the reason that I think it is relevant to women's wealth, health, well-being is we do have the right to ask these questions. And if you're on your spiritual path and you're just beginning to come to terms with or understand that, we are infinite souls having a human existence. We have chosen to be here at this time for a reason. So there may be something within us that, we know that this stuff, that these things that we're being shown, these things that we're being told that we need to believe are not necessarily true. And by asking these questions, we're broadening our own understanding of who we are and why we're here. I hope that's not too deep and woo-woo, but that is my belief and my understanding. So, with that being said, let's jump in to some of these theories. Now, what I'm going to do is just go through one by one. The ones I don't know anything about, we'll skip through. I'm not going to talk about them. The ones that I do have something to say about, we'll get into it. I'll share what I know, share what I feel, and hopefully you enjoy today's episode. We all love a good conspiracy. This is what my friends send me a lot, or they want to talk about, like, what do you think about this? So it's my, I don't know, zone of expertise maybe, other than everything else that I talk about. So let's go. Okay, so first of all, actually, before we get into that, a conspiracy in itself. So I was in Bali, I read this really interesting book. If you love conspiracies and you want to learn more about the CIA in America and how they work, and MK Ultra, and it's all about the Manson murders, and how the CIA used certain hypnotherapy, LSD, it's basically mind control. If you know about MK Ultra, it's mind control. It was a really good book. And in that book, so I don't know if this is a conspiracy or not, it spoke about the term conspiracy theorist, that it was actually the CIA that coined that term after the JFK assassination, because they wanted to make people who were asking questions that, look silly, like, why are you asking these questions? You're a conspiracy theorist, like, stop, and it then kind of stuck around as a bit of an insult. Now, I don't know much about the JFK assassination because I feel like it's not. I'm going to go into this. Because I was listening to something the other day, and it was really interesting. They were talking about, the questions that people ask as something to do with the bullet, that apparently the bullet went through the front of the head, but then when you look at the pictures, the blood splatters if it's the back of the head, or vice versa. I don't know. Please, don't fact check me on that. I'm holding my hands up. I don't know too much about that. I just know that within this book, because it didn't go into all the details of JFK, that was part of the CIA. And the CIA basically run America. So after the World War, they stepped up, and if you go against the way that they want things running, then things might happen. There's lots and lots. It's very interesting to read about Hollywood and kind of what goes on in Hollywood, and my perception of Hollywood and actors and actresses that sort of get pulled into that has changed a lot. So maybe we'll see how this podcast goes, and we need to get in. I need to get on with some conspiracies here. La la la. Okay, first one straight away. I don't really know much about. Taylor Swift is working with the NFL. I was actually watching a podcast this morning, and it spoke about Taylor Swift and whoever her boyfriend is right now, I don't know, their relationship being a bromance. So for promotional reasons, to support either her or his career, it's a PR relationship, bromance. Don't know too much about that, so I'm not a Taylor Swiftie fan. So let's skip that one. This one, again, don't know too much about this, but Avril Lavigne died and she's been impersonated. Now, I've also heard that Paul McCartney died. So these kind of conspiracies are the ones that I'm not quite sure, like, what would be the reason? for this. Obviously it would just be money, so whoever was in charge of Avril Lavigne, if she's died, they're obviously not going to make money, so they need someone to replace her. The Paul McCartney, again, there's certain songs, if you play them backwards in the Beatles, it does say that Paul is dead. I can't remember the reasons why they would do that, but yeah, they're interesting ones. I'm not quite sure why you would do that.
Just interrupting this episode to remind you to please like, subscribe, drop 5 stars if you enjoy listening to my podcast. It really does mean the world to me. And also to remind you, you can now watch every episode on my YouTube channel. Head to YouTube, type in Joanne Wellth, and I'll see you there.
Next one, Princess Diana. Now, I do like the royal family, which is funny because I do question them. So I don't know if I just like the tradition or I don't know, like I love being English, and I think I'm a bit of a sucker for tradition and just growing up and, having the Queen. And I remember my mum being so upset when Diana died, and it's kind of, obviously this was before, I had grown up and started questioning things. So the Diana one, I would like to think was an accident, but the older I get and the more things I listen to, is it that she just knew too much about the royal family? Are the royal family not exactly what they seem? I feel like my perception of them, and again I think this might be for a lot of people since the Queen has died, has changed. I don't know. So there's a lot of theories around Diana. Now, some are that so I'm not reading this is just from what I know, she knew too much. She was pregnant, so they didn't want to have an illegitimate child in the royal family. Also, there was a kind of race aspect to that as well, because Dodi was Muslim. Did she, was she just too much of a black sheep and they wanted her gone? The fact that she was kind of a trophy wife, it was never meant to be forever, but she had the name, the family, the legacy that Camilla didn't. Obviously, Charles and Camilla were a couple all the way through, if you believe what you read, and if you watch The Crown. So there's that. There's also the stories that her driver was drunk, which I don't know. And it was an inside job. I have watched other people talking about this, and it was suspicious that when the car left the hotel, it went a completely different way to go to where it needed to go, and went through that tunnel. And Paris is a huge city, and even back in 1997 there would have been a lot of CCTV. There were 17 cameras in the tunnel, none of them were switched on that night. Coincidence? Or conspiracy? Why was that the case? So this is where these whys come up when it comes to conspiracy. People will tell you that you're mad, but why? Why were there CCTV cameras not turned on? And what a shame for William and Harry as well. So, for me as a little girl, every time I see footage of the funeral, I think it was, how many years would it have been? Was it 23 years the other day, the 31st of August? I can't remember what the date is. So yeah, that is an interesting one. So depending on, for me, when I speak to people about the Diana, it all depends on whether or not, if they're royalists, it was an accident. If they don't care much for the royal family, it was an inside job. Everyone has their own opinion on that. But for people to ask questions because it didn't feel right at the time, red flag for me. Okay, let's carry on. Another one that I don't really know much about, Beyonce and Jay-Z are Illuminati leaders. Don't know. I've also heard that Beyonce is a witch, which, hello, but a dark witch, like putting curses on people and stuff. I don't really know much about them, I'm afraid. There are I'm going to skip that one just because there's too much going on in the world and I don't want to talk about that on my podcast because I don't know much about it. I'm going to go to this one though. Aliens built the Egyptian pyramids. This is one I am on board with. Now, I was obsessed with ancient Egypt when I was at school, and so a little bit of a geek of me, but the other day I actually watched a really interesting podcast on Mars, and like there is the Ankh, the Egyptian symbol, and pyramids and evidence of Egyptian life on Mars. Now, again, my partner, he thinks I'm crazy, but I believe this. There's too many coincidences. So, for example, the position of the pyramids in relation to, is it Orion's belt? Or, I can't remember. What is it called? I can't remember. Some of the stars in the sky, my mind's gone blank. I should have wrote that down, but, I was scrolling. But the position of the pyramids anyway. And there's not just pyramids in Egypt. There's pyramids all over the world. There's Mexico, there's China. In China, they've covered them with grass, so they look like mountains. There's some hidden in the Antarctica. But they're all in the same order. They're all built in the same order and in Pleiades, in the Palladian star system. So they're all exactly the same. So from above, if you're coming in from above and you're a little alien on your spacecraft, you know where you're going. It's a point of reference. And just going deep into this, so this is one that I can really go deep on, that it was actually alien races that, of course, they built the pyramids, and they were some of the very first ancient civilizations, but then did have the technology, and they were way more advanced than we are. And even, again, if you're religious, you will be, this will not be in your ether at all. But even just, I listened to, what's his name, Billy Carson, and he talks about things in the Bible that, if we look into it, and people floating over, now were they floating, or was it that they were in a spaceship? And it's really, really interesting. I would say, if you want to look into this, go in with it with an open mind. We're never going to know. We can't travel back in time. But it's really fun and really interesting just to hear these different perspectives, because we're only ever told one way. I didn't go to religious school. I went to Church of England, but we're still only told these stories in a particular way. And obviously, each religion has its own stories. And when we hear them from a different point of view, this is when you're like, oh no, your conspiracy theories because you believe in that. I'm like, but we believe this version. So why can we not listen and see what this person has to say? So have a listen to Billy Carson. He talks a lot about this, the early civilizations, the anarchy, and how we came about to being the civilization that we are now. And he talks there about that we are actually not as advanced as they used to be. And the people who built the pyramids, the aliens that built the pyramids, and they are actually watching over us. And it's really interesting that he talks about, and I've read this somewhere else before, I don't know if this is on this website either, that we see these UFOs coming down to Earth, in the news last year, that people have said, like, yeah, it's true, we have them, we've got these alien bodies, and, is that, some people will say that's a cover-up for other things, other people say that, this is true, this is gospel, and I just think it's really interesting that somewhere along the lines that they are protecting us. So as humans, we are not meant to be powerful enough to destroy ourselves. We're not meant to. When it shouldn't be a thing that we can destroy ourselves. However, with the advancement of technology and nuclear warfare, we are. And UFOs are often spotted over these military bases, because if they're there thinking, like, what are they doing? Like, they need to chill with those nuclear bombs because they're going to destroy themselves. So this is why they're coming down. And even when I talk about this, I can hear my partner saying, you're crazy. You are crazy. You're such a conspiracy theorist. But I'm just asking the questions. Like, why are they coming over military bases? What is in Area 51? I really do think that they are there. They're working together. You know, there's spacecraft there. It's a place that they know where they come into. Yeah, I believe that. And I think if you don't, there's no way that we are just an anomaly, that we on Earth as humans are just the only ones in the vast infinite space. There's no way. There's definitely multiple versions of us that, you know, we connect with these when we're meditating, our higher selves, our highest powers. You know, this is the link to the universe, to stream, to source, to understanding that, you know, we are not just this shell of a body. We are a soul that's surrounded by, you know, skeleton and muscles and skin. And we're here to serve a purpose as a human. And then, you know, we'll be on our way, and our soul will maybe come back as something else because we've got other lessons to learn. And it is all an energy. And this has to come from, you know, this energy is within us on Earth, but it had to come from somewhere. I think I went on a bit of a tangent then. Maybe I did. How did this start? Oh yeah, the pyramids. But yeah, I really do believe. So again, if that sparked an interest, go and have a look. Type in Ankh on Mars, or watch the podcast Forbidden Knowledge and listen to Billy Carson. Some of the stuff is a bit over my head and I don't understand it. Now, and some of it, because I don't follow a religion, I'm not a Christian as such, so I don't really know much about the Bible when he's talking about biblical references. But go and listen. Be open-minded. Go and have a listen. Next one, flat earth theory. That's one that I can't get behind because I've been on a plane and, you know, what I do always imagine, and this kind of links in with a little bit of the Matrix and the Truman Show. And I always say Truman Show. Things will happen. Oh my God, this is such the Truman Show. And I do question whether or not, you know, certain things happen and it's put there. You know, the universe does things for us, not to us. So there are times, you know, when we have that deja vu and, you know, that's a glitch in the Matrix or the Truman Show, whichever one you relate to the most, that... How did I get onto this? I've just gone off. Oh, flat earth. My brain, because there's all of this information coming through. So yeah, Truman Show. You know the end of the Truman Show when he hits the wall at the end, when he gets to the end of the ocean and, you know, then he climbs up the stairs and he makes his way out. Now, when things happen and I'm like, oh, Truman Show, you know, I'll say, oh my God, I haven't heard this song for ages. Then you get in the car and it's on. I do question that. I do think there is someone listening, they're like, do you know what, she deserves to hear that song, let's stick it on the radio. The universe is doing things for you. There's no coincidences, it's synchronicity. So when you think of somebody and they text you, you know, you've brought that on, the energy of you. Or is there this simulation? Is there someone who's watching and, you know, we all have our own, we're all playable characters in this and there's someone above. Again, find out, go and research. This is all my own opinion. Oh, okay, not too many more to go. Government conspiracy theories. I've already touched on JFK, don't really know much about this, but the CIA had a hand in JFK's assassination. I think probably yes, he was very, from what I know and what I've heard on other podcasts and learning, he was against the regime that they wanted. He didn't want to fight in, I'm guessing it was Vietnam, if I get the years right. And this is why a lot of people, they think that the CIA, another one, recent, the assassination against Trump, that, you know, he doesn't think in their way either. So, you know, we need to get rid of him. I also think, just off the side note, that the death of Marilyn Monroe was also very suspicious, and that probably had something to do with her knowing too much information, maybe like Diana. So I'm going to look into those. Actually, I get on tangents on some, and then others I don't dabble too much in. So watch this space. Maybe we'll go a little bit deeper into this American history. So yes, CIA. The CIA have their hand in a lot of things. If you learn about the CIA, there is another interesting podcast. Is it The Everyday Spy? And he was ex-CIA, and he talks about literally how the CIA works. And, you know, we think the President of the United States is in charge of things, but he's not actually. La la la. Moon landing. Ugh. I can't make my mind up about this because the footage is sketchy, but it was 1963. However, I have heard a lot of people talking about that it was all created by Stanley Kubrick, you know, the guy that did The Shining, and at the time he was creating another movie, the name of the movie slips my mind, that was based on the moon, but there were things going on at the time, and it was a huge, cover-up, they're trying to a huge distraction for what was happening in the 60s. So, you know, and you will have heard all the things, you know, there's no wind, so why is the flag, and then dust, and then all of those things. So I'm not sure. I have had a good chat with my dad about this one. Obviously, he was alive, I wasn't, and he believes they did land on the moon, and I don't know. I really don't know with this one. Again, do I need to look into it? It says here that it was actually filmed in Nevada's Area 51. We're never going to know because no one can get in there. Oh, another good one here, which is good timing because it's nearly the anniversary, 9/11. Now, there's so much scope to this one. There's some, again, I'm not going to mention because of events that are happening right now, but was it an inside job? Did the CIA actually do this as a second Pearl Harbor? They needed some ammunition, metaphorically, to start a war in the Middle East, because, you know, before this we didn't have this, you know, war on terror. And did they do this as an inside job? You've probably all seen the videos of, you know, the towers collapsing and it looks like a demolition, and there's the World Trade Center 7 which collapses in on itself, and no one talks about that. But there definitely were hijackers. So did they know it was coming but they allowed it? Which I think is probably more likely. That, you know, there are people who've spoken out now that said that they did warn the government that something was coming, and, you know, was it a case of we take this and then we can start the war? It's an interesting one. And because this is, you know, we lived through this. You know, I remember being at college when the planes hit, and we had English, and I think she wheeled the TV in because we didn't have internet. Even if I had a mobile phone, would have had a mobile phone, no internet. So we were watching it on the TV that they wheeled in, and yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy. I'm just reading the numbers here. So nearly 3,000 people were killed. And as I've just said, obviously I didn't. As I've just said on this website, you know, it's not a website. Definitely, God, I can't speak. So as I've just said here, you know, did they just let it happen? They wanted to go to war in Afghanistan and Iraq for oil. Yeah, crazy. Interesting, but crazy. Okay, I don't know about this one. This is an American one. I'm not going to talk about. It's a shooting. Can we? I don't know about this one. Democrats being behind a child ring. I'm not going to use that word. the big C as population control. So during 2020, we had all of those conspiracies, especially with the vaccination. You know, it's a microchip, Bill Gates. Now, I personally think that I don't think it was population control. This is my view. It was created, and was it an accidental leak from there? Was it a practice for biowarfare? You know, how quickly can these things spread? And then I also think from however they leaked it from, it definitely came from the medical lab in Wuhan. Was it on purpose? Was it by accident? I don't know. But from then, I think that it was definitely a way of governments to have a little bit of control, pull things back, the way that the world, and it hasn't worked in their favour, because there's a lot of backlash and a lot of, you know, since then, you know, kids losing out on education. But again, that can be a conspiracy in itself, that the governments don't want children to be highly educated. You know, universities are made so expensive, so not everyone can go there. There's a really famous quote, I can't think of it now, but from 1984, that keeping the people, don't educate the people, then they don't ask questions. Is it that type of thing? But with this one, I can't imagine, but it happens. People sat around a table and then thinking, right, okay, how can we use this in our favour? I know, let's keep people in, let's keep people from seeing each other. Some of the rules and regulations, for sure, were just pulled out of someone's a-hole because they didn't make any sense, and now they've all been debunked. All of the, you know, people that were called conspiracy theories because of the masks and stay 6 feet away from each other, and now have all been proved right. The whole thing with the vaccinations and people being scared into getting the vaccine, and now they're saying, yeah, okay, we hold our hands up, we were wrong, we didn't really know what we were doing, and it was pushed through. I do think that was a lot of, how can Big Pharma make a little bit of money off this? Big Pharma is one of the areas that I think that me and my partner fall out. We don't not fall out, I use that word loosely, but I don't trust them, and this is one of the conspiracy areas, just the conspiracy theories, that I think they're all in cahoots with each other. People who make fast food, keep people sick, ultra-processed food, you know, keeping people sick. I read some stats the other day that I think it might be 50% of children in America are actually on some form of medication that they will need to stay on. So get the kids sick for life. This is then for life, for that lifespan, money coming into Big Pharma. So that is something that I do really believe in. And again, I'm asking the questions, I'm looking for the truth there. It's not a conspiracy in my eyes, because we can actually find the facts. Sick people make people very rich. And I think that also has something to do with the events in 2020, that, you know, it was leaked in whatever manner, and then they jumped on that to make money. They all jumped on that to get people to act in a certain way. I really do think that governments are very react solution. So they make a problem, they react to it, and then they come in with the solution. And I think that people get very drawn into, oh, the government says this and now they're going to do this to keep us safe. This is happening right now in a lot of places. You know, the recent riots in the UK, that, you know, when you watch the UK news, they let these stats go. This amount of people have come across on boats last week. People don't need to know that. What people want to know is that, you know, how are we going to all live, and how is this going to be supported? And I do think the mainstream media play a big role in rallying people up, making people think there's a huge problem, so the government can step in with these rules and regulations, and this is how you need to act, and this is what we're going to do, and freedom of speech, we're going to take this away from you. And it's crazy from someone who is from the UK, watching the UK right now, and people being arrested for things that they've posted on Facebook, and, you know, where is the freedom of speech there? And this all stems from, I think, obviously it was happening before COVID, but, you know, during COVID, people were told you can't post that about, you know, this, and you've got to say this about this, and you've got to believe this, and it's still filtering through now. So, yes, is the answer to that question. Don't know what the question went off. Oh, we've already spoken about Area 51. And the Pentagon have confirmed that they do use that area for looking into UFOs and debris and aliens. So, not a conspiracy, really. And I don't know much about this last one. There's a hidden chamber filled with government secrets behind Mount Rushmore. Don't know. Maybe that's one that I need to look into. So there we go. 15 conspiracies. Quickly gone through some of my ideas, some of my own questions. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you did. Let me know if you didn't. Let me know what you'd like to hear more of. And if there's a conspiracy that heightens your, you know, if you smell something fishy, if you feel that something isn't right, trust your intuition, ask those questions. Do not listen to people when they're calling you a conspiracy theorist. You are a truth seeker. And that is it for today. Thank you so much for listening. I will be back next week with another solo episode. And yeah, keep an eye out for my first episode of my new videos coming. Don't know what I'm going to call them yet. Just spending life with me, how I'm navigating through life. And let's do this. Let's do life together. I'll see you next week.